Hi everybody, my name is Clint, also known as the Boy Stitcher on Instagram. This is my first video. I've never filmed a video before, but we're giving it a try, and really what I want to do is log my progress on some of the quilts I've been working on. I've actually been working on the new Catch Me Quilt by BeColourful Quilts. I believe you pronounce her name Jacqueline de Jonge. I could probably be really butchering that, so I apologize if I did. But she recently redesigned this quilt for this year and used the new blush batiks, which is a little bit of a brighter color, lighter color than the normal rainbow fabric she uses, the really deep, rich rainbow fabric. So I've been starting to work on this. Now, what I did not record my progress on the first two parts. There are 6 chapters in this quilt. I'm working on chapter 1 right now, and I finished parts 1 and 2 of chapter 1, but I did not film them. But part 1 was these 4 center stars that goes in the center of the unit that I'm putting together. So there's the 3rd one and the 4th one, and one of the things about these stars is it's really difficult to be very precise and get all of your points lining up. So I took my best stab at it. Definitely not a professional or trained trainer or certified or anything like that. I'm just figuring it out as I go. But so I did take these apart a couple times and redid them. I got pretty close on most of them. Some maybe have some areas of opportunity, but it's going to be good enough for me. So that was part 1 of chapter 1, and then part 2 was kind of this outer ring that goes on the outside. So the star will go in the center there, kind of be inset there. So that's the first one. This is the second one right there. This is the 3rd one. If I can get that for you. There you go. And the 4th one. So that was parts 1 and 2. And then I've been working on part 3, which is a border on the outside of even that first ring. So this is what it looks like. A bunch of flying geese. So that's the first one. Here's the second one right here. And the 3rd one. So I'm working on the 4th one now today. And if you're not familiar with BeColourful Quilts, they are foundation paper piecing, which basically means you get a piece of paper. You cut this template out. It's basically some newsprint. And it has some numbers on there, and it kind of gives you your order of how you sew the quilt. So you start with fabric number 1 down here in this very bottom, and you kind of work your way around and around and around. And you go all the way till you get to fabric 81. So there's 81 pieces on this unit right here, or this part. So I've left the foundation papers on most of these parts just so I didn't lose the markings. There's a bunch of markings and stars to line things up as you go along. I've not done that because I should be attending her master class in October, the end of October. And I don't want to take those paper pieces off, or the foundation paper off just yet, so I don't lose my markings, because I've been told the master class is how you put it all together. It's going to be with Jacqueline, so I'm excited to learn from her. But yeah, there are 6 chapters in this quilt. So I'm a little bit behind. I'm working on chapter 1. And I think in the month of July, I should actually be working on chapter 5, but we're going to do our best to catch myself up so I have everything ready to go. So appreciate y'all coming along. This is really just for me to document my quilting, to have a log just so I can keep it. I have some things on Instagram and stuff, but I figured might as well make a video. So I've got my stack of fabric. So the cool thing about the BeColourful patterns is they will give you specific cutting instructions and specific ways on how to stack your fabric here. So when you're going to sew 81 pieces of fabric, you don't have to worry about matching up which color goes where because you're just going to be pulling off the top of this stack right here. So a lot of prep work, but it is worth it. Makes your sewing go a lot faster. So yeah. So thanks for joining me. I'm sure I'll get better at the video thing as I go along, but if you have any questions, drop a comment, but excited to have you here. Okay, so like I said, not the best at video yet, so did not realize that none of my audio was recording, so doing a voiceover. So here you see, here's the piece in more in detail. I'm just showing you the stack a little bit up close. There's, I think, 80 something pieces of fabric in this one, but you see there are all those 24 different colors here, and that's what I'm showing you. And now I'm just kind of showing you some organization. I've got all of my numbers that correspond to the different colors in that baggie. And really the best way to keep yourself organized here is to use the baggie system, a different baggie for each chapter. But basically what you do is you take the very top fabric there, that kind of yellowy green fabric at the top, and you're going to put it on the very first foundation piece right there that I'm pointing to. So they all match up. You are going to be making a mirror image of the piece. So what you're looking at right now, the pattern piece, is actually the back of the quilt. The opposite side is what is actually going to be seen on the top of the quilt. But basically you just work your way through. There's really not much thought to it. Once you get in front of your sewing machine, it becomes a nice little rhythm. But here's the baggie. Chapter 1 is what we've been working on. I did go ahead and get a start on this already, so you're seeing the very tail end of Chapter 1. But these baggies, there's so many different pieces to this quilt, so keeping them in baggies and organized is really, I think, going to be the secret to success here. You can see Chapter 2, I started cutting out all those templates as well. Reading ahead, Chapter 2 is going to be interesting. It's got some actual templates in there, so excited to get to do that. And then the baggies, once I cut all the pieces of fabric out, there's 4 parts, there's 4 different quadrants, so there'll be 4 stacks of fabric for 4 different pieces, so I keep those in the baggies just to keep them all together and not mixed up. There are some different colored fabrics on here, just kind of what I'm pointing out. It's kind of goes around with the background, the white background, the border. There's some striped fabrics. There's different colors of white background as well, just to give the quilt a little bit more interest. So that is what I'm showing here. And here is a little bit more of an up-close picture or video of the border fabric. Really cool. Going to tie all the colors together. Really excited to get that on the quilt and see it in person with everything else on the quilt. And then here's the striped fabric. The different types of white backgrounds. So you see one's a flower or floral. This one's more of a dot sparkle. And then a couple more there. You can see the background there. It's pretty fancy. I don't know what you would call that fabric. And then my personal favorite, the white fabric with silver stars. I think is super cool, captures the light really cool, adds a lot of interest. So I'm pointing to that center point there is very difficult to get lined up. I had to undo those circles many times, redid them. I got close enough. Some of them were not perfect, but it's good enough for me. Okay, so now we're in front of my cutting mat and sewing machine. So I'm getting things set up, ready to go for the actual paper piecing. The cool thing about this newsprint or the template paper is that it is just a newspaper type paper. So you can easily iron it if it gets wrinkled or folded or something like that. So I generally will come back and iron it just to get all the folds out and make a nice flat paper piece for me. So now I'm ready to actually get piecing. The interesting thing that people get confused about sometimes is that uh, piecing is not is quilting is not the actual piecing of the quilt top. Quilting is when you're actually going through all three. So I'll be doing the piecing now, and quilting's at the very end. But what you just saw, the so fine pin, it's a little fabric glue, makes things stay a little bit easier. Then this has become my new favorite tool, the Acorn Easy Press pen. Basically, it's just a pen with a marker tip, and you can see it puts a little bead of starch right on the fold of the fabric. So I'm not adding a lot of starch to the whole fabric, just to those little seams where I need to have some nice crisp edges. And in this quilt, there's a lot of points, and so I really want everything to be nice and crisp. Then this is my trusty rotary tool, 28 millimeter. Highly recommend this one. It's a lot more user-friendly and easy to use when you're trying to do all these getting around curves or trimming your seam allowances. And then this is a little contraption that I made. It's just the yellow thing you see there is the add a quarter ruler. Basically, it allows me to add a quarter of an inch seam allowance to the quilt. And then the card is just a mailer. It's a pretty thick plastic mailer that I got that I just used some painter's tape, tape the add a quarter ruler on the side, kind of create like a hinge mechanism. That way it makes life a lot easier. And then I have a larger 12-inch add a quarter ruler just in case for bigger seams, and then Scotch tape. You would be surprised at how often I have to use Scotch tape in these quilts. You never quite know when you're actually going to rip your foundation papers, and so Scotch tape is great to really patch that up really quick, get you back on the road. It's not the end of the world if you accidentally rip your papers. You just have to be really careful. So to get started, we'll start with foundation point number 1. That's what I'm pointing to right there. I'm taking the first fabric piece to it, and I'm going to turn it over. The fabric that I'm using is a batik fabric, so it really doesn't have a right side or wrong side, but if you are using fabric that has a definite right side or wrong side, you want to make sure that the right side is facing out. So when you turn over your foundation paper, you see the right side of the fabric. Again, you're making a mirror here. So I'm using some of that fabric glue just to tack down my foundation paper. This one I found it was a little tricky on the very first one, just because of how everything lined up. But if you place it correctly, you'll be perfectly fine. Plenty of room. I just had to come back and redo one when I first started doing this on the first part. So But this should be plenty of room for my seam allowance on all sides. So you want a seam allowance on the two triangles, the top part there, and then there's a small little bitty fabric right there that you'll want a seam allowance for as well. So you have to have 1/4 of an inch on all sides where you're going to be attaching another piece of fabric there. And you see it is attached. It is a temporary attachment, so if I fold it off, it's not going to leave any residue or anything like that. It's pretty easy to use. So here you're seeing me use the hinge mechanism that I created. So I'm going to start working on foundation point 2. So I'm lining the edge of my mailer up right on that line, getting it as perfect as possible. I fold the paper back so I'm only seeing my fabric now. I swing my add 1/4 ruler back over right there. And so you'll see that it adds, like, it has a little lip on it. So that is a perfect 1/4 of an inch that I'm going to trim that fabric down to now. So now my fabric has a perfect 1/4 of an inch, is ready for the next piece to get lined up on. That's what I'm doing. I'm grabbing fabric number 2. Lining that up perfectly, making sure that it fully fits in the next foundation point. So I want that fabric to be fully covered when I'm looking at it from the back side like that. So, and that is plenty of room, no issues there, just getting it nice and lined up. This is all about precision piecing. So the more perfect you can be, the better here. So moving over to the sewing machine now. So you kind of see a close up. I've got a 1/4 inch foot on my sewing machine has a walking foot on there. So basically it's grabbing the fabric from both sides. I just find you could use it without it, a sewing machine without a walking foot, but I've just found that with the newspaper print, it makes things go through a lot smoother. I'm using a Microtex needle, super sharp, super fine point, and then I'm using 80 weight Deco Bob thread. It's a polyester thread. When you're going in, you'll start seeing as I'm sewing, you're doing a lot of back tacking to make sure you're securing the fabric to the other pieces, and that adds a lot of bulk. And when you have a lot of different color changes in your fabric, you're constantly getting more and more and more bulk added to your seams. So I found the Deco Bob thread is really good at reducing that bulk, but still getting a nice, really secure sewing or seam on there, excuse me. So the other thing, I have my machine set to a 1.5 stitch length, which that will come in handy when I'm ready to remove the paper later on, because it basically perforates the paper for me. So you see here, I'm folding the paper back out, and I'm going to be sewing through all 3 layers, the paper and the 2 layers of fabric. So I'm going to sew right on that line and get it as close as possible, not go over at all, come right to a point there, and do a little back tack at the very end, and then cut my thread. So you'll see I'm lining everything up, and I am just slowly going to work my way through. Do some back tacking right there. I am not rushing on this. This is all about precision. So I think I have my machine set on maybe the bottom 1/3 speed, just to make sure that it doesn't go crazy on me. And then I'm able to be very, very precise. All right, came right to the point. Do a little back tack. thread. So now that it's all attached, I'm pulling it out and you can kind of see it's starting to create that mirror effect. That is the top of the quilt you're looking at now. So when you open that seam up, you'll see it creates a nice edge with that foundation paper. Now back at my cutting mat and iron, you'll see how I use the easy press pin. I'm just doing a little finger press to get it situated correctly. And then I'm going to use my easy press pin and add a small line of starch right to the fold. And this is just going to make it real crisp, really nice. And there we go, that's all it took. A nice crisp edge there. And that is how you do the paper piecing. It is pretty easy once you sit down and just start doing it. Not a lot to it. You kind of get into a rhythm. So now I'm going to make my way over to foundation point 3, which is the other side of that flying geese there. So again, pulling out my hinge mechanism for add a quarter, lining it up, folding that paper back, and your paper is going to get all folded. It's just how it goes with foundation paper piecing. Swing that add a quarter ruler in, cut off all that excess fabric now to get a nice perfect 24 or quarter of an inch. And now it is ready to go for the next piece of fabric. And I'm going to start right at the top of that point. So all of her patterns have arrows in the direction of your sewing. So this one, you're starting right at that top point, right where you ended in the last piece. You're going to start pick up right there, and so back down that triangle. So you've got to be really precise. Generally what I'll do is I'll take my piece over. I will manually drop the needle into the paper just to make sure I'm really lined up. I'm not way off base or way off target there. And then from there, I'll start sewing, do my back tacking, and move forward. So you really start getting in a swing of it. I usually have some type of TV show going on in the background, or listening to a podcast, because it does become a little mindless after a little while. Nice zen time in front of your sewing machine. It took me about 2.5 hours to do this whole thing. Again, there's 40 pieces of fabric on here, so it is involved. I go a little bit slower foundation paper piecing, especially with very intricate patterns like this one. So 2.5 hours, going to take a while to get all 80 pieces on there. So instead of having you watch 2.5 hours of sewing, I'm going to just speed things up. This is really sped up, 600% speed here. You see I'm getting myself ready for the TV show, and I'll start going. So I'm not going to show all 2.5 hours because that's still a lot of screen time here. But you can kind of see the process here. It's go back and forth, back and forth. And then the other thing is, you see here, I actually made a mistake. So I had to rip things out and redo it. So that's what I'm doing right now. Not the end of the world, not a big deal. You just have to be really delicate if you accidentally make a mistake. Get your seam ripper handy, or have your seam ripper handy. Just slowly pick out those stitches and restart. Okay, so here's kind of what I'm talking about as a mirror image. So that is what you're going to be seeing on the quilt once it's all pieced together. But this is the other side of the paper, so you can see the numbers and everything are facing out that way towards the back of the quilt, and this is the front. But this is how you get some really nice sharp edges. You can see there how it's going to start working my way through here. It really is just a repeat over and over, and you get in a rhythm to get these things complete. So it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get this done. So I think we're going to speed this up, and yeah. Okay, so all the paper piecing is done on this one, but you see it looks kind of a little crazy. So what I'll need to do is take it up to my cutting mat and just cut off all this extra to clean it up, and then it'll be ready to go. So let's go do that. Okay, so all the foundation paper piecing is done. Now I just need to come in and clean up these edges. So I use my 25mm rotary cutter. It seems to get around the curves the easiest. So let's do that really quick and just clean up these edges really quick, and we will be done. Okay, all the trimming is done. I will transfer all the little markings when I'm ready to piece this together, but here's the big reveal, what it looks like. One of my favorite things about these patterns is just the radiation of colors and how well it all works together. I just think it's such a unique and interesting way of how it transfers the color across the circle here. So um, yeah, so this is officially the end of chapter 1. Okay, so that is the end of my first video. Thanks for joining me. I know I'm not the best at the video yet. Hopefully I get better with time, but if you made it this long, thanks for sticking with me. Looking forward to sharing the rest of these chapters with you. So I've got chapters 2 through 6 still to do. Yeah, just got to get it done before October. So thanks everybody.